Yes, we are live. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining Open Mic Foundation. It is the 31st of May, the last day of the month. May is gone, dusted. What a amazing May it was. Sunny, bright. I know Cape Town has its moments with the rain and the cloud and the dullness, but in Gauteng it's been pretty good the last couple of weeks. Nice warm weather. Thank you everyone for joining. I do appreciate it. We have Janine, we have Kimmy, and we have Amina that's online today. And today they're going to be embracing us on a talk called Power of Spirit. It's a very enlightening conversation that has obviously touched across a lot of areas all across the world. We have a lot of spiritual people out there, and definitely I think bringing the three ladies together today is going to definitely help people to relate mind, body, and soul with oneself and conscious as well, conscious being. So yeah, so this is how the talk's gonna go today. We're gonna hand it over to Janine. She is going to embrace us with her talk for the next 15 minutes or so. I'm going to be monitoring the comments and the chats that's on Facebook to see who's live. And I am going to ask the questions after every talk, and then we're going to hand over to Kimmy, and then we're going to go over to Amina. And then we'll wrap up with any questions that anybody would have as well. All right, ladies, let's go. Janine, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be part of this awesome community and to speak alongside these beautiful ladies. Sheshni, thank you so much for the gift you're handing us. Today, I'm talking about the oneness of spirit, and I'm talking about which spirit are you listening to. To put this into 15 minutes, listen fast, listen close. We all have different beliefs. We all have different ways and doings, and we are all connected. And for me, this was quite an interesting concept to grasp, to work with, and to be part of. Especially as an empath, I had to then start becoming aware of whose thoughts am I thinking, whose feelings am I picking on, whose body pain am I experiencing. And for me, it became very apparent that what I thought was a blood sugar challenge was actually a challenge of oneness, where I was sending out healing and love and peace and joy to people who weren't necessarily able to take it on, but it was there for me to work with and work with others. And this was a very, very interesting journey. I would love to know if anybody else has had that experience, where all of a sudden you just feel yourself falling asleep, or you can't understand why your children are having a temper tantrum. Meanwhile, it's you having the temper tantrum through your children, or somebody else is having the temper tantrum through you, through your children. And that is when it becomes a very interesting point of view, for sure. Now, because we are all connected as one within Spirit, Creator, God, all that is, we are able to connect at a very, very deep level. And many do not understand this. And they can't understand why or how. And remember, we all have different perceptions of it because we all have different filters. We all have different upbringings. That's okay, because that is part of the oneness. That is part of our uniqueness. And that is what makes us one. Think of it as different pieces of puzzle coming together to make one beautiful composite, amazing picture, providing we choose to work with that. Something I've also come to see is people will say to me, no, I was told to do this. And I'm going, no, Spirit doesn't quite work that way. For me, what I've come to understand, and again, each of us have different perceptions, conceptions, and potentialities. Spirit guides us. We are guided. Our higher self, Spirit, suggests, leads. It's a whisper that brings us. The only time it becomes loud and demanding is if you're about to step under a bus and you will very clearly hear no, if that's in alignment with your purpose and your path, or you would have been warned to not go out that day and you chose to anyway. I'm not talking about life-threatening situations here. I'm talking about you've asked a question, because when you are able to live in the question, you open yourself to the infinite possibilities of infinite intelligence and just an amazing journey of, yes, there is hard work. Sorry to tell you this, it doesn't have to feel hard, but there is hard work. There's work. It doesn't have to be hard. You open yourself to this journey that interrelates with everybody. For me, now, please understand, this may not resonate with you. What came forward for me the one day, I was studying Kabbalah, which is a form of Jewish mysticism and other things. I wasn't going in depth. And I had this very, very clear picture, and I'd never studied sacred geometry at this point. And I had this extremely clear picture of standing here. And as I chose to follow the whisper and to move along what I now know as the sacred geometry point, that there were all points lit up like little lights, and one point would move, and as I chose to move into that space, I was leaving space for somebody else to step into, to walk into, to work with. And that is the importance of each of us growing, working with change, working with spirit, following that oneness of being one with spirit, and allowing ourselves to be guided and to flow through life, because we then open space for people behind us. We create space, and we do this with our dreams, we do this with our visions, we do this with our targets that we in business set each month. And we create the space for creation to occur with ourselves and with spirit. Now, going back to which spirit are you listening to? Are you listening to that spirit inside of you that would like to keep you playing small, would like to keep you safe? Because after all, it doesn't want to be without a job, does it now? It would like to keep you with it. Some call it ego, others call it, it doesn't matter what you call it. It's there as a warning, guidance. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's there. And it's for us to say, all right, where does this fit into the greater picture? Where does this fit into the oneness of being? Where does this fit into my journey, my path? And what am I doing to help facilitate this and move forward with this? And that is what I came to understand, that vision was that I'd had of oneness, where we all move and work around the sacred geometry of life, depending on our path, our purpose, and how we are being called to. And so when ego steps forward and self steps forward, it's to check in. Where is this a resistance to me moving forward? Where is this an allowance of me moving forward? And where is this a receiving of a gift to move forward? And that is when we are in oneness with ourselves, with spirit. Now, we all have experiences, we all have limiting beliefs, we've all had parents, and a lot of us are parents. And it's to understand that there's always learning involved. There's a choice involved. And something I have discovered is when you, and I'm going to repeat this, when you choose to ask questions, and the correctly directed questions, you get the most incredible and amazing answers that are empowering, loving, and guiding. I always say to people, I'm not always grateful for the things I appreciate, because very often things will happen in your life that add value. That's what appreciation is, adding value to your life. Gratitude is dependent on receiving something, being given something, creating something. It is a feeling. But the emotion of appreciation is, darn it, that journey was an interesting one. However, the value that it has added to my life and to the life of those around me is immeasurable. And that is when we're working with spirit. We are working with the spirit within ourselves, that we are now aligning with the greater spirit. The spirit of creation, the spirit of choice, the spirit of expansion The minute you are told to do something that feels constricted, feels like heavy, that is normally not from spirit. That is normally not part of the journey you are being asked to follow and to move along. So when
So,
there's heaviness,
okay. So when there's heaviness, Janine, right? I mean, that's quite interesting because I think at a time like this, a lot of us feel that heaviness, that pulling down, and obviously it builds in terms of fear that we have in oneself. Are we on the right path? Whether it's work, whether it's relationships, whether it's our kids, and you know, what what would you suggest that heaviness is? Obviously we do feel it, and I think we all feel it, as we go along. What would be your recommendation when we do feel that heaviness within ourselves, knowing what we're doing could be something else that we need to take?
well, number one, when there's heaviness, it means we no longer are light. There's no light. The light from ourselves is not radiating. The light of spirit is not radiating. We are making it dense. We are making it concrete. We are no longer flowing. So that heaviness, and people feel it differently. For example, my husband, when it's out of alignment, he starts getting a very tight feeling around his head. For me, I feel it in my body. So for you, it's to discover, for each person to discover what it is. Because we are one, I always check in. Is this my thought? Is this my feeling? Is
Mm-hmm.
this my path? If it's not, I ask that it be returned to sender with consciousness attached, that it be returned to spirit and to Mother Earth for transmutation back as light and as love. And that really makes a difference. And then I go and start exploring. Okay, was this ego wanting me to do it? Was it mini me and the victim archetype wanting me to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it in alignment with what spirit is asking? Or is there another spirit that is talking to me to take me off the path and take me out of alignment to cause a disruption? And then it's to cause a disruption of that so you get back into alignment. And
Okay.
sometimes it's something like really weird, really peculiar, like go to the shop now. But I don't want to go to the shop now. But it feels like. So you go to the shop now and there you meet somebody, you chat with them. And this is a very real experience that happened to me. I really did not want to go to the shop that day. And there I met somebody and we exchanged cards, we exchanged information. And she's now actually a very good client of mine. And she's gone on to help other people herself. And it's in following that whisper of spirit, that drawing of spirit, that inner knowingness of working with your higher self, working with the self of you outside of your body that allows the light of spirit to come back into your cells. Because we are 90% space. We are also receivers and transmitters and receivers. So we are very often agonizing over worries and thoughts that are not ours.
Yep.
They're coming from other people. They're coming from other spaces. And they're coming, depending on people's beliefs, how they work with it, but they're coming from other lifetimes that we may possibly, potentially, and totally be walking through at that particular point in time. But that's a quantum physics argument that we're not going to have today. In fact, I don't believe in arguing. So it's so vital to feel, how does my body feel? Am I being told what to do? Because then that is not in alignment with spirit. Am I being led what to do? And I know Kimmy's going to be addressing which consciousness are you listening to? And it's a very, very important thing because so many times I have people coming to me and saying, no, I was told I have to do this. Well, that is not spirit. That is not a spirit of the highest of intention, integrity, and greatest of good, and of the highest of good. It's not spirit in totality. We are led. We are not forced. And the minute you take the light out of your purpose, you feel heavy, you feel constricted, you feel constrained, you feel like it's so hard to do because you literally are working against your path. You are working against your purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm actually smiling because it's so ironic, we have these type of things that happens at work in the corporate environments a lot, where you're so restricted and you fight against something that you don't believe in, or could be done differently, or could be handled differently, or could be focused differently. And I think people are constantly working against those forces. I think with kids as well. You know, us, I think, I mean, all of you ladies are all parents, right? I mean, we force these things on these kids, and it's that force of them not wanting to do it, and for us that we force this belief on them or force them for something to do, and it just doesn't sit right with them. We don't acknowledge that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what is so interesting? Even in corporate, even in work, I've worked with my clients and I've shown them. You look, and it works. You look at a situation and you say, how does it get better than this? Things are always working out for me. So what is aligned for me to do in this situation? Is this for me? Is this for somebody else? Is this for later? And it's as though things just dissolve and they disappear. You feel lighter, everybody else feels lighter. And somebody said to me, but Janine, that's manipulation. I said, is it? Or is it following a whisper and allowing things to unfold in a creative way rather than a competitive way? Because the minute we go into competition, we are going against spirit. We are not here to compete. We are here to create, to co-create, to create alongside, and to create within.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Janine. Guys, if you have any questions for Janine, some comments, please share some insights for her. We're gonna go over to Kimmy next. Amina, okay, you guys have muted 100%. I was just gonna tell you guys to mute when Kimmy's talking so that, you know, we could hear there's a little bit of an echo. Thank you so much, Janine. I do appreciate it. Kimmy, over to you.
Thank you, Stacey. Can you hear me? Am I not muted?
Yes, you're good. Cool. You're good.
Okay, so I will attempt to just be a continuation of that wonderful message, and just my introduction to a section of understanding spirit in the context of this discussion is, my thought was, how do we perhaps define spirit? Because we all come from different backgrounds and it's such a vast subject. So to define spirit, maybe we can perhaps describe it rather to understand the nature of spirit, and thereby begin to see the experience of the power of spirit. And not that I want a specific goal or outcome for today, because it's more in the sharing of the nature of spirit that we may have a much better experience of it. But today, I also want to focus a lot on the difference between operating on a collective consciousness versus pure consciousness wavelength or plane. And this is an important wedge of awareness that you have to have when you're on a spiritual journey, because discernment is one of the most important things to have on your tool belt when working in a spiritual path, when journeying a spiritual path. You are probably going to be better if you can understand the difference between your pure consciousness wavelength and a collective consciousness wavelength. Collective tuning in mainly to other people, pure tuning in mainly with yourself and divine self, which is your connected nature to spirit. To define spirit, I believe we should rather connect and feel to the nature than spirit, rather than stamp any words on it, because words do have their limitations. And definitions have their place in helping us understand or put things into frame. But for now, I'm just going to journey you through a bit of an imagination of the vastness and the nature of spirit and the reach that spirit has. So let's imagine when we walk through a forest, and you can close your eyes and picture yourself there. You're in this beautiful forest, rich with the sounds of birds and nature, a gushing waterfall, the ground and the earth making crushing sounds beneath your shoes. You can hear it, you can sense it. You can feel the knobbles under your feet. You can, when you look up at the sky, you are looking at the vast expanse of the sky, the colors and the shapes and the forms, the beyondness of its nature. And then as far as you can see, when you reach the top of the hill, you're looking over and the horizon is miles and miles away, but you can see, you're part of it. You can actually be there by just seeing it. And the realization of all this being outside of us, and yet we are right here, a walking, living being amongst the aliveness of this vast expanse of everything. And as sure as the tree is standing tall, upright, as sure as it is a life-giving force in itself from its deepest roots to its widest branches, it's also just a sure thing that you are a living, breathing life, having great life vitality, standing right there, being able to touch, feel, and experience the full nature of creation right there. Therein, I say, lies the power of spirit. I could finish right there and not say another word about spirit, because that is ultimately how it is. Spirit is within. We experience it within ourselves, and it is not something that exists outside of us, and yet there it is. We can see it in all things. We can see it in the great creation of all that is. So I do love the paradox of this phenomenal subject, because the fact that two opposites hold within them the truth, and in this case, the light, is in itself evidence of spirit, and how spirit moves and lives and has being and light within all, within everything. Spirit moves through the river, and it is the river. Spirit soars with the eagle, and it is the eagle. Spirit vibrates through the ocean, and it is, in fact, the ocean. Spirit is eternal, it is infinite. Spirit is light in motion. So I don't want to get too scientific, but when we look at the collective consciousness, which is going to help us in understanding collective versus pure consciousness, and the importance of tapping into the pure consciousness state, will always safeguard you and keep you connected to the true source, the true nature of spirit. The origin of all things, all material creation, all physical creation is from the same source: God, the cosmos, the unified field, or the Holy Spirit. We can give it many names. It is the evidence of itself that has power, whichever way it is approached. All creation, everything that exists in the physical world, is the result of an unmanifest transforming itself into the manifest. So everything that is beyond the five senses comes from source. We get to experience it through the five senses. And that is ultimately the awareness that we develop, and the great awareness of becoming connected to this thing called spirit. A very large quantity of something is how the dictionary defines abundance. But power is defined by the ability or capacity to do something or act in a particular way. And I pulled out these definitions because there's such a close relationship between the power of spirit and the abundance of spirit. So abundance is a very large quantity of something. Power, the ability or capacity to do something with that very large thing.
Okay.
And when I look at the power of spirit, I see it in that way. I see, therefore, that as I see what is happening within myself and around and about me, I see that spirit is everywhere. It is creation in action. It is the very life force of the newborn baby. Because without spirit involved in that co-creative process of the newborn baby, you have a stillborn physical piece of flesh. And it's quite a phenomenon when you think of the small and very large nature of spirit and the power that it has. So we quite clearly define the powerful nature of spirit in these short series of pictures and personal associations. It is more alive within ourselves than anywhere else when we look at it from this perspective. In fact, the difficult part becomes that we face the paradox of what we see outside of ourselves. we think and process differently. So we see the world through different eyes, and then we are sometimes perceiving things in a different way because we're gleaning on all kinds of information, and we sometimes slip into collective consciousness without maybe being aware. And in that wavelength, we start in the collective consciousness, we are searching for answers outside of the self. And instead, we should perhaps be more aware of pure consciousness wavelengths, which takes us back to our deepest connection with spirit and helps us to look inside ourselves, to go to the real thing that is within our particular reach, on our particular path, on our particular journey. So let's explore seeking of that spiritual connection and making sure we are aligned with pure consciousness. And seeking is the key word here because it's also part of the problem sometimes. Seeking in the wrong way can lead us astray from connecting to the power of spirit. And for many of us, we constantly want to find our purpose and meaning. And then as soon as we think we found it, we actually on to the next thing, because the human nature is to spiritually grow. It is to grow. Yeah. We are always on a path of some kind of growth. It doesn't matter on what level we perceive that to be. We are a growing network of cells. The inner drive is for us to grasp and understand our purpose. And if we do not, it seems like life becomes empty and there's this lack of vitality. There's this emptiness, or actually I'm uncomfortable. I don't feel like this is truly me. And those are the subtle areas where you've gone perhaps into collective consciousness. So when we seek something, the goal or the miracle of spiritual bliss or awakening, for example, this is perhaps something you're seeking outside of yourself and not realizing is already within you. The movement of spirit is evident in those two places, but it's normally the conscious or collective consciousness is more involving other people's consciousness, whereas pure consciousness is involving real spiritual connected, divine spiritual connections with self-consciousness. So the three components of your reality, body, mind, and spirit, are essentially the same thing. They come from the same place, which is the field of pure potentiality. It's everything that is possible is networked into spirit, mind, and body. And these three things lead us through our spiritual journey. Now, we can go back to the example of the birth of the baby, where it starts with a conception, and once the whole process has happened in that split second where spirit unites with the physical manifestation, you understand that body, mind, and spirit are all one. You can't ever separate them. And in that space, as we grow and as we evolve as humans, we can sometimes lose our connection with spirit only because of perhaps mind or body going astray from the original purpose. So let me give it to you in another form, so that we frame it in another sort of context so that it's not too confusing, because sometimes these spiritual conversations I find get complicated and like the mind goes all over the place, not sure of like what is the meaning of this. So you may be asking, how do I find my connection with spirit and how do I feel it? Or how do I know that it is not something outside of myself? Good question, because I have struggled with this for many years in my past spiritual practices and looking for teachings outside of myself that were going to guide me to my full feeling of being spiritually on my path. And those are distractions. It's not to say that they're wrong or not useful. The main thing that I had to learn to come back to was when we realize our true nature, our true self is one of pure consciousness. We align with the power of spirit that manifests everything in the universe. Meaning that you cannot really experience the power of spirit when you're looking outside of your true nature or denying your true self. You are more and more close to the power of spirit, the true nature of spirit, when you are aligned with your true self, your own true nature. When you're operating on another man's roadmap, or another man's or another collective consciousness purpose or roadmap, you're going to be off track, and the symptoms will be a feeling of discomfort, not wanting to be pulled in a specific direction, but feeling you have to. And those are the signs that you're not in alignment with the power of true spirit, your true spiritual nature. So what I've put together is a few guidelines to the pitfalls of seeking in the wrong directions, because sometimes people are on a spiritual journey and they think that there's like a list of things you have to do, or a guidebook, you know, because nobody really taught us this in school. So is there a guidebook? Can you please tell me what I should and shouldn't do? And
Yeah.
what I've really learned from some of the greatest teachers of all time, and one of them, Deepak Chopra, says seeking is another word for chasing after something. And this has been the most effective realization for me in all my spiritual endeavors. Because when we're constantly chasing after something, we are eventually chasing our own tails and not recognizing the value in the process of going within, rather than the chase or the seeking without. We're seeking for something that is outside, and it actually is all the time within us. So I love that saying, what you seek is seeking you. But what I have found is more pertinent in working with spirit is what you seek, you already are. Try not to go out of yourself to seek for it, because what you seek, you already are. God's beauty of creation is right here in the form of spirit, in the form of the divine connection that is embedded in you, just like it is in the eagle, in the river, in the mountain, in the ocean. So it's a
sorry, Kim. So you know what, and I don't know whether this is coming through for some of the listeners right now. I mean, Melanie posted a question, and Melanie, I don't know who this question's for. She says, how do you align mind, body, and soul? But I know Amina's going to be talking about that. But
yes, I'm
yeah,
happy to give that to Amina later.
Yeah, so let's give that question to Amina. It's very interesting, Kimmy, because we are all saying it's ourselves. Spirit is in with ourselves. But we are seeking it somewhere else, or we're not even realizing it. And people, I don't know if people are aware of that. I don't think they understand that feeling, that desire that's inside of them. My sense is that a lot of people don't know how to tap into that. And that for me, and that is quite fascinating, right? Because people don't know how to tap within themselves.
Well, I think that the illness in modern terms of not knowing how to tap into themselves is not so much the not knowing how, but perhaps not having as many distractions, not being so overperforming and over goal-posted. Because you'll see in my next and final little section that I've got here, it's what you are not supposed to do. It's the pitfalls that stop us from connecting. We go into a kind of thinking in this modern rat race that we're in, that we have to be doing something in order to get this right. And it couldn't be more further from the truth, because actually connecting to your pure potential, connecting to the purity and the divine nature of spirit actually requires the most serious amount of stillness, but the lightness of stillness. So it doesn't have to be a project, it doesn't have to be a business deal. And let me explain to you what not to do, rather than I don't believe in telling people what to do on their spiritual journey because it's personal.
Yeah.
But what not to do is a couple of pointers. There's no better way to be a genuine seeker of your pure potential than to avoid this pitfall.
Okay.
Number one, rather don't know where you are going. So the consciousness collective says, always know where you're going and how you're going to get there. And spirit says, don't know where you're going, because spiritual growth is personal and it's spontaneous. What worked for one may not work on the roadmap of another. The big events come along unexpectedly, and so do the small ones. A single word can open your heart, and a single glance or touch can tell you who you really are. Awakening doesn't happen according to a plan, a schedule, or a script. So rather don't know where you are going. Allow it to unfold. It is better to sort of fit together your jigsaw puzzle without knowing the finished picture in advance. So we're given a puzzle when we were a kid, and we know that the end product has to look like that. Spiritual advancement or spiritual growth or spiritual connection is very different in that faith is the thing that brings about the action, and that amounts to the movement of spirit through you. And that is when you have everything that you need in terms of feeling connected. So, number 2, don't struggle to get there. If you think that it's difficult, if it's hard work and it's difficult you're like, hang on, this can't be feeling like spirit, because it's not. So the more you fight for the result, the further you take yourself away from yourself. And that's not the goal. You actually want to be feeling quite comfortable with the union of the self and spirit. That's number 2. And then number 3, essential. Don't follow someone else's map. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If you follow someone else's mantras or guidelines without being in divine connection with yourself, you might be training yourself without realizing it for fixed ways of thinking. And fixed ways, even if they are devoted to some spiritual practice, is not bad. But fixed ways are not the same as being free. And being in connection with pure consciousness feels a lot more free, but it's not harmful if you're gleaning on those teachings and those experiences of a spiritual nature, and keep those that work for you and abandon those that don't. Then you're bringing your progress into play, and it is not forced. So that is also connecting to pure consciousness. You remain open to changes and evolving of the self as you go along the way. And then the last 2, I think I've got 3 more. Don't make this a self-improvement project, because that's in the area of psychology, maybe, where you're wanting to improve a habit. It doesn't mean that you don't run self-improvement projects, but in the area of spirit and connecting to pure consciousness, you don't do spiritual growth or spiritual alignment because you want to improve yourself. For the same reason, you start attaching yourself to results, and then you get this terrible feeling of failure, and the judgment and separation causes you to disconnect from pure consciousness. So you must not make it a project. And then don't set yourself a timetable. One cannot say, I will give this spiritual growth thing 7 years, I'll give this connecting to spirit 7 years, because it doesn't, if it works for me, it'll have a result. It's the same thing. It's not time bound. The power of spirit is available to you all of your life. It is your birthright. It is your bounty. It is that thing which actually keeps your spark alive. It is the light of the world through you. It is God's light waves through you. It's whatever you want to name it. And that it's in itself a timeless experience of growth. Through awareness, we realize that spirit is not time-bound. It is eternal, limitless, and infinite. It is better to be a witness or an observer of your growth, rather than a critic or the teacher of your growth. So finally, also don't wait for a miracle. What we realize about miracles is we define them differently. So sometimes in spiritual or connecting with spirit, we're waiting for a sign or we're waiting for a miracle. And for you, it might never come, because you've now, in the waiting for it, actually separated yourself from it. Because waiting for a miracle separates the supernatural world from this world, and this expectation that one day the supernatural world will notice you. And this is a paradigm of thinking which is misleading. Since spirit only operates in one reality, your task is to only break through your boundaries, the boundaries of division and separation. So remember, spirit operates in one reality, and you've got to connect through your own pure divine connection to spirit to get that one reality and to connect with your true self. So watching and waiting for a miracle keeps the boundaries up, whereas when you actually just let go and connect with the self, spirit appears and does the work within you. And it's that in itself is the miracle. So if you can avoid some of these pitfalls, you'll be on track. Mostly just to focus on pure consciousness connection, which is that divine connection through spirit with spirit, through the true self, not going along with collective consciousness, what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is saying should be done. You've got to make time for silence. You've got to make time for stillness. You've got to switch off distractions and really just use the breath to go in and connect to the pure essence of you. And therein lies the power of spirit, which is pure consciousness.
That is, sir, whatever you've said so much, Kim. I mean, an absolutely profound way of putting it to a lot of us that's struggling right now. I think to add to what you're saying, to add to that stillness, I think we also need to listen more.
Yes.
That
when you're quiet, you can listen.
Yes, and I think I've learned, I think my biggest learning for 2020 particularly is to listen more. And the listening has brought much more stillness within myself. We kind of are programmed to react to what people are saying because we make it up in our mind already. Before someone's already done with the conversation, we already have a response to react. So we don't listen to a conversation, but we are on a sense of reacting, hence why we're not still enough to appreciate the spirit within ourselves or appreciate what is around us, to tap into the conscious being of oneself as well. I think
listening to the voice of spirit is even more demanding. So if you can practice listening more on the conscious plane of others,
yes,
if you become an exceptionally good listener on that plane, you are training yourself to hear the very subtle messages that spirit actually gives you, because you don't hear it in this conscious space. The voice of spirit is something that is felt, and you have to be still and quiet and close enough with yourself to be able to pick up in those silent spaces what the voice of spirit is actually communicating. Because the voice of spirit speaks, but it doesn't speak through ears, you know, the sounds that we receive in our ears normally. There are many different ways that spirit speaks, and each person has a way of receiving the gift of spirit knowledge in different ways. So I may be hearing from sensations, pictures. Somebody else may receive symbols. Somebody else may actually receive like an audio, like in their head they can hear the audio of spirit. It's very different for everyone. Until you connect with that, you won't know its voice. So you have to be still. You have to learn to listen. You're right.
Yeah. And I'm saying that because it's something that I have been receiving, is to listen, and if you're not conscious enough to listen as to what's coming through you, and I'm saying through you, right, and feel that energy and feel that oneness again, to what Janine was saying, being that alignment as well. You're not going to understand if you consciously on the go, or you're so involved with your life, if you're not taking that breath of air inside of you and just take that deep breath and breathe in. You definitely, I think between yourself and Janine, maybe we're going to hear Amina right now, I think we clearly are tapping into something where people, to your point, Kimmy, is people are seeking. They are definitely seeking, but they're seeking in the wrong direction. I wouldn't say okay, maybe wrong is a kind of a strong word.
It's unconscious. It's unconscious versus conscious. It's awareness is the greatest of words to use when it comes to understanding our nature as human beings. The minute we become aware of ourselves, we step out of the veil of denial. We can, when we're aware of something, we can see it, and suddenly a great light comes on in us and goes, oh my goodness, I didn't see that I was doing it that way when actually I needed to do it this way. It's just creating an awareness removes something from being either wrong or right, just to being neutral in the path. So the path of growth is all about self-awareness.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kimmy. That was absolutely insightful. Melanie responded, says, thank you so much, Kim. Very insightful and practical advice. And I think that's definitely, that's definitely what's coming through. Thank you so much, Kimmy. Yeah. Amina, over to you. You're on mute. Amina, take your mute. Here we go.
Unmute. Hi.
There we go.
Apologies for that.
No.
So listening very intently to both of you, and to you as well, Kimmy. You mentioned a couple of very pertinent points in your talk, which I will elaborate on during my little chat as well. So my chat is about mind, body, and spirit alignment, and I know that's been doing the rounds for many years, and it sounds, oh, out there, but it is really, and I only got to learn this over the past 3.5 years because of a spiritual experience that I had to endure. And it's given me a completely different perspective on what the spirit actually is and means, because I never ever gave the spirit and what the meaning of spirit is any thought at all in my entire life up until I went through this experience about 3.5 years back. So what I've learned in this time was, what does it mean to be in alignment, mind, body, and spirit? I never thought of that until I needed to be on this path of alignment, to be in tune with, to find the light. When you have found the light, you draw that into your system, and that brings you contentment. And that is what most people seek, is contentment. No matter what you're surrounded by, whether poverty or whether wealth, or whether everything in between, it is contentment in your situation that people are truly seeking. And that is where a lot of people are a little unfocused at the moment. So I belong to a number of groups, spiritual awakening groups, where people are trying to find their spiritual awakening, but they don't know what to do. And as both Janine and Kimmy have pointed out, what path are you taking to find the light? Because without the light, you're not going to find the light. So what I've been doing as well, I'm a dream interpreter. So I belong to a number of dream interpretation groups as well. And a lot of the interpretations are that people are lost. They can't find themselves. And that is most important. You have to first decide in your life, what is my intention for trying to align myself? Or am I trying to seek the light? Am I trying to seek contentment? The intention is extremely important to find the alignment, else there will be blockages. And I've come across many people who are completely blocked, and they say, I'm trying to be aligned, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm doing that, but I still cannot find my alignment. And as Kimmy said, what path are you on to find your alignment? Because, and as Janine said as well, who is talking to you? What is behind the veil that people are completely unaware of? So when you do a spiritual awakening, you need to be aware of the unseen that could tap into you to block your light. You have to be aware of that right off the bat. So if you are on a journey of spiritual awakening, the first thing you do is draw in the protection of the light and say, you please protect me on this path so that I don't veer off the path I'm supposed to be on, and throw aside anything that is trying to block my light. Very, very important, especially in the world now where everyone is trying to be light workers and light beings. They don't know that there may be things trying to block their light, and then they become lost. And a guide at this point is exceptionally important. And what is the light? The divine light. People don't always have a guide because they don't really know where to find one. I was one of them. I have clients at the moment, young clients, who don't know who to guide them. The first thing I tell them, meditate. You meditate, clear your mind, and visualize the divine light, and draw that light into every cell in your body. Brings you contentment, clears out all the negativity, and that is part of the process of the mind, body, spirit alignment. Negativity needs to go. Indoctrinations need to go. And you need to find the truth within yourself on your path. People will tell you varying things. I listen to my mother, my father, my uncle, my aunt, my friend, all have different opinions as to how to find your alignment. There is only one that can guide you to that alignment, only one, and that is the divine light. Go that way, and then you will never veer off the path, because the light will guide you, the light will protect you. Very, very important for people to know that, Janine, especially, as you said, the voices, you have to know who is talking to you. So the first point, number one, protect your spirit. Sides, the front, the back, the top, the bottom, all around. And when you are in tune with everything, people will be aware of energies. Energies affect the spirit very, very, very much. When you're around someone that's negative, your spirit cringes. You want to leave. When you're around people that have a very good energy, you want to be around them. That is when you know your spirit is feeling. When you are depressed, your spirit needs uplifting. So energy affects the spirit. So you have to make sure that you are around very good energy. Start within your home, within yourself, within your home, your surroundings. People say burn incense, burn candles, whatever it is that you, in your upbringing or in your environment, need to cleanse your space, to bring in good energy into your space. Plants, 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 everywhere. Really, really good. Right, Sheshni? Good
Yeah,
plants inside.
absolutely. Yeah.
Really, really good energy. And that is the nature of things, Kimmy, as you said, bring in that good energy into your home. Each time you enter, cleanse. Every time there's so much, because you can bring in negativity from where you are. So you cleanse and you walk in, I'm cleansing myself, you go into your home and you make your home the cleansing space, a clean space for you and your family. But that starts with you internally. So when you make a commitment or an intention, I am going to take this path, it's almost as if your body starts aligning naturally. And I've had a couple of my clients who, when they made that intention to align, they said, suddenly these things started happening to me on many levels, on a physical level. They started healing. And certain people may just be taken out of your path that are not good for you. That is why sometimes when you are not in healthy spirit, you could become ill. I had a friend of mine that was affected by negativity in her area of work for quite a while. She became physically ill and couldn't work for 8 months. That's the impact that the spirit that can be done on the spirit in a work environment. You get free-spirited people, and they may find working in an environment too confined. They would need to be, those are the ones who are out and about. So your spirit really defines the kind of work you do, who you marry, who you surround yourself by, who are your friends, what do I want to read, what do I want to watch, how much do I love God or the universe or nature. Your energy really, really is extremely important for the spirit. Really, really important. Nature is the most impactful, good impact on the spirit in so many ways. That is why when people exercise, try and exercise outside and not inside, because of the good air. Really, really good for the system. Very, very cleansing. So that is why with the mind-body alignment, there has to be cleansing in the mind. We have to start, the mind is extremely important when there's clutter. And a lot of people have too much clutter at the moment. They're overthinking. Why is there COVID? What can I do in my current situation because I'm not earning enough money to sustain my family? And that is going around everywhere in the world. Too much coffee aggravates the mind. We need to start with the mind first. That is where that's where meditation comes in. Meditate first. You protect your spirit, you meditate. Draw in the divine light to help clear your mind. Then the body is really important. Once you've cleared the mind and the light is drawn in, it's almost as if the body automatically starts to heal. And I've had that with almost all my clients. They go into a detoxing emotionally, physically, and mentally before the spirit aligns completely. When the spirit aligns completely, you can feel the angels. You can smell the angels. You hear the angels. And sometimes even you may feel the divine energy around you. That is when you know you are in alignment. I won't say complete alignment because that is God's definition of who is in complete alignment with everything. God alone knows who that is. So there are different kinds of alignment depending on the person. But when you are in your mind, body, soul alignment for you, you will feel so much goodness around you. You will feel, this place doesn't feel good for me. This man doesn't feel good for me. That is why sometimes when people have transitioned, there's a breakup in marriages. There's a breakup in relationships. And that is what you need to be aware of. If you're fighting with your spouse and they're not understanding the journey that you're on, you have transitioned. Either they may transition or they may never understand the path that you have taken. Because you have elevated yourself there spiritually, they may never be elevated there, depending on themselves and what they are truly seeking in life. And there have been many divorces over the past 5 years because there have been so many transitions from people, especially amongst women who have transitioned on a spiritual level, to try and find the alignment within themselves. And sometimes it's a pull. They don't know why they feel this way. They just need to seek something. So there's this whole mass spiritual awakening that's happened over the past 5 years, and people not knowing how to find the light. So taking Janine and Kimmy's conversation into account, listen to the light only by protecting yourself, meditating, and being very, very conscious of your intention. Your intention has to be pure. Your intention has to be sincere for the goodness of yourself and those around you. It's pointless trying to, tending to get the light, but you are a mean person. You are horrible to your people. It's just that the blockages, and I've seen it, the blockages comes like, you need to work on yourself first. The blockages are just, and I've seen that. I can see into the spirit of people. I can see the blockages. Why am I blocked? What have you done that you need to people to forgive you for? What have you done in your past? Very, very important for people to look at themselves. What have I done? Why can I not find rest? What is it? And that's extremely important from a karmic perspective. There's a lot of karma that may be drawn into people's lives. We are to cut cords from 3 or 4 generations back. It's a very real thing. I didn't know that was a real thing until very recently. And I could see the energy attached to someone, and I had to cut the cord. And that's really important. So people need to say, whatever cords there are that's attached with stuff that people did in my generations back, please cut the cord so that I can move on. It's not my stuff. It's not my stuff. That's really important. So there are many aspects of spiritual transitioning, spiritual alignment that people need to be aware of. But when you make that intention and you're sincere and you're really good at heart for yourself and those around you, it's almost as if the universe comes to assist you and saying, let me take you and let me find the person to assist you. Or if you can't find the person, let me assist you with the angel's assistance. And that's really, really important. So basically, in a nutshell, I don't want to go off too much because I just need this to be a very succinct conversation. People can understand the importance of what needs to be done to find the alignment without too much talking. And with that comes clarity. Clarity is extremely important. Without clarity, you're going to be at that crossroads for a really long time. There are so many pathways and you don't know your paths and you don't know which path to take. With clarity, your instincts, your intuitivity will be heightened and you will know, this feels right. Let me try this. And sometimes that path that you may not work, but for a reason, you may find that you needed to learn something about yourself. And that is really, really important for many people who say, but I failed when I took that path. That wasn't really a failure. You needed to learn something extremely pertinent about yourself at that point to raise you and say, that's what I learned. I may not have been successful on that path, but that pushed me onto the right path. And that's really, really important. that's what I needed to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, Amina, there's a lot there, right? I think, you know, I've shared with a lot of people of recent, people from work and my friends and some of my families as well. And again, I'm gonna say this. I think in last week's conversation, you know, I said this as well. We need to start looking and tapping into our inner selves first. How we grow as a human, how we grow into our businesses, how we grow as a family, how we grow as a person is very, very important. And if I had to take back the whole month of May, and you ladies have been in individual conversations with me, and all the other conversations, you know, we've had. I mean, I have Michelle that's on the talk as well. And if you just listen to some of the conversations, everything leads to one thing, and that's yourself. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think they're tapping into themselves first. You know, we tend to look at everything else around us. We tend to look at the external environment. We tend to look at what's happening at work, at other people, at the kids, at the husbands or the wives, and we don't look inside of us first. And the one thing I continue telling people, start working with yourself first, because the reflection of yourself is a true meaning of what anything you do or touch will, that light, that divine light that, you know, all three of you guys are speaking about right now, will be brighter. Whatever that energy that's running through you right now as well is going to go over to whatever you do or whatever you seek, right? And I feel, and I don't understand, you know, people, I don't know why people are not doing that. And you know, you three are coaches, you guys have your own practices, you are healers, you are working with so many different people from across the world right now. And I'm fully aware of all three of you, and I truly hope for the people that's going to be listening to this, whether it's on YouTube or whether it is on Facebook Live, that they are seeing this. I truly hope that they find someone like you, like each and every one of you, where they can find someone that can help them, that can, you know, guide them and tap into themselves. Because I think we fail as human beings to look at ourselves first. I think people are scared. It's that fear of what are they gonna look at? Like when you look at a mirror, right? What am I gonna look at if I look into the mirror? Am I gonna be happy? Am I gonna be sad? Am I gonna have this fear of not wanting to look inside that mirror now? And I think that for me is key. And what I've learned the last month through all the conversations through you women is, I can truly say that if you start to look inside of yourself first and look in the mirror and find out for yourself, what are you actually seeing? Are you truly seeing someone that's happy? Are you truly seeing someone that can move forward? What are you seeing? And I hope to all the viewers that is on the call right now and watching us, people that's going to view this on you know, the YouTube channel for the Open Mic Foundation, I hope that they reach out to you guys, because I truly believe that people from a spiritual self that has tapped into this have so much to share and so much to teach others. I think that this is one guidance that's needed in the world right now. And that for me comes very, very strong. So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to leave you guys with the last words that you guys want to share. I want to go over to Janine. I mean, is there something that has come up for you, Janine, in this time that we've spent right now? Is there something that you want to end off with, your last comments from your side?
I love what Kimmy and Amina said, both of what they were sharing and saying. For me, it's to look whose dream you are following. Is it yours? And that is why live your life step by step. Be in the present, because that is the present.
Absolutely. Thank you, Janine. Kimmy, yourself?
So I actually, for this specific task that you gave us, I decided to draw a card from my deck of very beautiful soul journey cards that I have. And the one that I pulled out was called Golden Flight. And I think when you're on a spiritual awakening, it is about almost feeling like you're taking off on a different set of wings and you have no idea where you're going. And the key words are action, faith, and power. And basically, you can't really tap into spirit or pure consciousness without taking action, having faith, and really stepping into the power of spirit. And the message is, this is a time for a complete leap of faith. Now is the time to take action. All your preparations have been done. There is no longer time for self-doubt. You are completely in your power. The universe supports you in your action. Change what needs changing. Do the work and say what is needed, but do take flight into the golden age. This is a very, very powerful time for us, and all is within our grasp. We simply need to ask.
Oh.
So that's the message I have.
Thank you so much, Kimmy. I appreciate it. Amina, you on mute. There you go. Your final words from yourself, Amina.
Yes, Kimmy, I'm being channeled, so this is coming from, well, yeah. Only one light, and that is the divine light, light upon light. And that's what I have to say.
Oh, thank you so much, ladies. Taking the time out on a Sunday afternoon, I so appreciate the light that you bring into my life and each and every one of you. Thank you so much. I greatly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. And I look forward to more collaborations coming soon. So thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. I appreciate it. Melanie says, Amina, a beautiful, strong message, coming through. So thank you very much, everyone. And I wish everyone well. God bless everyone.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.